in the midfield, if you can clamp down João Neves, if you can clamp down on Alexis McAllister, if Fabian Ruiz has the game of his life and becomes that player that we saw in the Euros. A lot of big ifs, but those are players that have the potential in them, and they showed glimpses of that against Man City. They have to have 9 out of 10 performances across 2 legs.
And the Reds would end up finishing second in Group C, advanced past Bayern Munich 3-1 in the round of 16, with all 4 goals coming in the away leg in Germany. And then in the quarterfinals, Liverpool cruised past Porto 6-1 on aggregate before their iconic semifinal tie with Barcelona. Liverpool lost 3-0 away in leg 1 before doing the unthinkable. They won 4-0 in leg 2 at home to advance 4-3 on aggregate. An unbelievable comeback. And then in the final, Liverpool took care of business against Tottenham, scoring just 2 minutes in thanks to a penalty converted by Mo Salah, and 2-0 was the final score. And here's a look at some of the players still on the squad today. Got to give our props to Nico Cantor, who guessed every single player on this list in our production meeting. Way to go, Nico. But yeah, look, some of the key pieces to that team still here today and bringing in that crucial leadership and experience. How much, Nico, do you think that gives Liverpool an edge in one of the 3 trophies that they're up for this season?
Yeah, it definitely does. They have a backbone, they have an idea, and the changeover from the Klopp era to now to Arne Slot, the tweaks have been evident, but not so aggressive. And obviously, you have your stalwarts. There's pillars in Alisson, in Virgil van Dijk. When you talk about a backbone, these types of players are what you're looking for. But that's not to say that they haven't changed a lot, because they have changed a lot. It's a completely different midfield. It's a completely different striker line, except for Mo. Mo's been able to stay, but everyone has been rotating, and he's been doing it with rotating casts this season. In Darwin, who's fallen out of favor, but it's been Diogo Jota, it's been Cody Gakpo. In the midfield, it's been Dominic Szoboszlai, it's been Curtis Jones, it's been Alexis McAllister. It's the changeover. Yes, there hasn't been that many moving pieces, but a lot of the big-time players that won those trophies back in the day, I'm talking about Gini, I'm talking about Henderson, I'm talking about Fabinho. How you could say that those guys are going to play forever, and now it's a completely different midfield?
I don't know if it's a completely different midfield. And the only reason why I would say that is because, yes, those players, those personnels might have changed, but has the profile of the team changed? And I don't believe so, because I can see the comparisons between Diaz and Mane. I can see the comparisons, obviously, Mohamed Salah is himself. We talked about the continuity we see right now in the back 4 and a lot of those players still being there and establishing themselves. I can see the difference now in Gravenberch and what he's doing now, and very similar to what Fabinho was doing and during those periods. So I understand in terms of the personnel changing, and that happens within every football club. But has the actual profile of the players, what the actual roles in terms of what they had as individuals?
I think they have a little bit. I think with Liverpool, it was a little bit more rock and roll. The intensity was heightened, and although there is a similar profile with Gravenberch and Fabinho, Fabinho was deeper lying, and then everybody else that would accompany him, they knew how to kick it up in gears. They would go from 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and they were playing 6th. They were playing at a very high tempo. And under Slot, I'm seeing a little bit more control in the midfield with the McAllister, with the Dominic Szoboszlai, with the Curtis Jones who comes in.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference I see was actually in midfield. So the names you pointed out, I agree 100%. But this year, this is a Liverpool side that so much focus has been put on Ryan Gravenberch, but the midfield is getting you goals. And big goals.
Contributing.
Big goals. That Barcelona tie aside, how many goals did that midfield for Liverpool in their Champions League run-in have? Not many. Gini Wijnaldum was the only player that was chipping in that Barcelona match. This season, Dominic Szoboszlai looks more like the guy that they got from RB Leipzig, who was scoring goals. He's playing as an attacking midfielder. They played with a flat 3 in the midfield, and that midfield they were tasked to run, to work, to do the dirty work for that front 3. Now, Arne Slot, he has provided them the license to, as soon as Mohamed Salah gets the ball, Mohamed Salah has so many assists because the midfield, they make those deep-lying runs, if it's McAllister from one side, if it's Szoboszlai from one side. Ryan Gravenberch even has license to bomb forward from his deep-lying playmaking role. So that midfield unbalances so many different sides.
For example, I don't think there's like a Henderson on this team.
Oh, I do think there is. I do think you see comparisons. I think you see the work that Alexis, especially McAllister, does off of the ball.
But he doesn't run as much.
Oh, he does. Look at the groundwork. Just because you don't see maybe Jordan Henderson have maybe a little bit less of a tidiness on the ball, but Alexis McAllister is he's doing exactly those same dirty works. He's doing those same doggies. He's doing that same excessive pressing, and that's why Gravenberch can feel like, oh, I can go and push forward. I can go and break the lines individually, carrying the ball, or in terms of passing between the lines, because he knows I can trust McAllister in both of those situations. I can trust him as the deeper line player, and I can also trust him in the Henderson workhorse role that he played previously. I'm telling you, the profiles that you see from Liverpool are very comparison to that 2019 team.
If you play a similar system, I think you'll find similar attributes.
I've seen this. The coffee's out. What's my take?
Liverpool will hope that those similarities can win them another Champions League title. This has been one of the best teams by far in world football. But we're talking about a big matchup against a team that is equally as hungry to get there and do the exact same thing. I mean, look at all the minutes played from these guys and where they rank among other players on Premier League clubs, also across all competitions. I mean, you've got some key players that are all ranking within the top 40, and then two players, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah, ranking in the top 10. They've been putting in incredible shifts, and the numbers speak for themselves. Where are the vulnerabilities? So if you are looking to expose this team, JD, how are you going to do it?
I think this bit is a bit worrying for me, because if I was to look at 6th and 7th, that's two players in their, let's say, mid-30s, if we could turn around and say that, in Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk. And then I think when you start thinking about Liverpool last year, why did they struggle in terms of the latter half of the season? It was maybe the excessive work on the legs. And I think Slot, what you were alluding to earlier, the management of their game is a lot better this year. It's less chaotic in comparison to Klopp previously. But what I do appreciate is that these guys are still in their mid-30s. They're incredible athletes. Virgil van Dijk looks 25. Mohamed Salah, if you see him take off his top, he looks incredible shape. But he does.
Looks like me.
But he does.
Yeah,
but the important part about it is...
Me 10 years ago.
Managing the extra Champions League games this year, the body, the excessive work that's going to be on them in the Premier League. It's the management of their minutes and how they handle that is going to be the most important thing.
I'm going after the fullbacks.
Yeah.
I'm going after, if I'm PSG, I'm going after Trent and Robbo.
Yeah, I think this match is going to actually be won in the midfield. I agree with you with the fullbacks. PSG, they have to be cognizant of not letting both of their fullbacks go forward. We've seen clubs like Arsenal, we've seen clubs like Bayern take full advantage of that in transition. When there's more balance, there's more of a balance in the team overall, but in the midfield, if you can clamp down João Neves, if you can clamp down on Alexis McAllister, if Fabian Ruiz has the game of his life and becomes that player that we saw in the Euros, a lot of big ifs, but those are players that have the potential in them, and they showed glimpses of that against Man City. They have to have 9 out of 10 performances across two legs.
Hakimi and Dembélé doubling up on Robertson.